Hey everybody, welcome back. Last video we talked about, my friend Ryan and I talked about the lines through the body, both vertically and horizontally. And now in this video we want to talk about, instead of breaking down the whole corpus, let's just focus on the arms and the legs. So we're going to talk about three harmonies today in the arms themselves and in the legs themselves. And we're going to take a few Wing Chun hands and talk about how if we apply more than one pressure, more than one spiral or energetic expression in the hand, it becomes naturally and inherently stronger. So we're going to have to understand a little bit more deeply what we're talking about when we talk about the three joints of the body, the three joints of the arm. So in Wing Chun, we talk about 3 layers deep in the bridge hand, right? And we're talking about 1, 2, 3, okay? And in Wing Chun, what happens to the bridge when the head moves down, of course the tail can then whip, right? And if the tail gets interfered with, then the head can come back and bite, okay? So it's all about his force trying to get these hands that are in front of my body out of the way, right? He has to get to me to strike, and now I can slip in through a different way, right? And if I slip in through a different way, then yeah, now I can change. So in essence, what we're doing is we're giving the arm 3 fists, as it were, 3 hands, right? And this is vital to your new practitioner and even your intermediate practitioner. What I want out of Ryan as my student is I want this part of his arm to be as articulate as this part of his arm. And this part of his arm needs to be as articulate as this. So these all have to be synonymous and unanimous in their execution of techniques, okay? But I'm going to go beyond just the head and tail concept here today, although that's a pretty vital one, and I'm sure we'll visit it more at another day. But we're going to talk about how when using the Wing Chun punch, for instance, let's just use the punch because it's pretty basic. Basically, when you're used to punching, it's kind of this Cro-Magnon skill you were born with, and it comes out as like clobbering, and that can hurt really badly. But Wing Chun's focus is on streamlining and using efficiency and economy of motion. Okay, economy of motion is pretty much king in Wing Chun. So instead of punching with the hands themselves, just like other arts, we're going to start using our body and punching with the body now. And I'm going to use the weight and mass of my body rather than just the arms flailing through space, right? This will make my body move faster, which will naturally make my arms move faster, okay? And that's pretty basic stuff. But what we need to talk about today is when we use the punch, right? Instead of punching with the hand, you're taught as a beginner to punch with the elbow, right? Because the elbow's got the ribs backing it up and the hips backing it up, okay? So first you learn to stop moving out here and start moving back here. Then with time you start to realize, oh, that's actually moving back here now, and that's what's moving the elbow. The elbow observes a principle known as float, okay? Meaning it obeys the commander here, and doesn't go errant on its own, okay? So when we punch, we don't punch with here, but we punch here with the elbow and the body backing it up. Okay, that's good. So that's going to change this hit into this hit, okay? And we're gaining more power now. Okay, that's all well and good, thank you. That's all well and good, but now we need to start talking about how the arm actually moves through space. One thing about Kung Fu, especially when like darting with fingers and using like the Phoenix Eye Fist and all those ginger and all those shapes, is if you're not conditioned, it's not going to work, A. But more importantly, it's not about how conditioned the surface is when your surface is when you strike, but it's about the approach, okay? The approach of the tool moving at the opponent is the end result's going to be big time different if your approach is even 1 iota different, okay? And so here's how the Wing Chun hitting is different. Yes, no longer using the hand, but now using the elbow and the body. But more importantly, the fist goes straight forward, while the elbow, understand, moves differently. The elbow doesn't go straight forward. The elbow rises, okay? And now the shoulder observes, okay, so understand this too, that when we're talking about shoulder, we're not talking about this piece here, okay? We're talking about all the meat attached from down here to up here, all into there. That's where those muscles are reaching. And that's what Wing Chun is using. They're not using this shoulder here, but they're using this shoulder back here. Again, upping the articulation here in this tool, right? So, wrist moves forward, elbow rises, and shoulder can relax and push forward. So we've used a linear forward, a linear upward, and a circular, meaning the scapula is gonna go around the outside of my ribs, causing this round back so that my hands can reach further and penetrate in rather than back here, okay? So you understand there's 3 different things going on here. Again, just like last video, we're talking in numbers of 3, okay? 1, 2, 3, 3. And altogether this hits with the whole tool, starting from back here out to here, rather than just starting out here and doing its thing out in space, okay? So the leg is the same. If you have a forward stance, please, Ryan. Other one, please. Thank you. Okay, so in Wing Chun, the leg, when I go into attack, right, whole body hits in, whatever the case may be, right? His hand is up, I move it out of the way, I chop in, yeah? Okay, the leg can come in close and cause a pressure, okay? And I'm gonna cause a silencing pressure here, and I can also have a pull-up pressure in the back leg, okay? So understand, just like the hands, I'm not punching out here, the leg is not stepping out here. The leg is stepping from back here in the hip and moving in, okay? This is one of many Wing Chun techniques, this way here, using this technique here, okay? Also, if Ryan's leg extends to me and kicks, I wanna raise my leg, of course, right? And you better do your work at home to condition your shins or you're not gonna like it very much, okay? That's up to you. So when he raises up to kick, I need to follow and I need to stick to him as much as possible. But if I just do this with my ankle here, then his force is pushing into me and I can't get that very much. But instead I lift with this back hip and now I can control his kick a little bit. So basically this is a technology that says dial your tools back into your center, all right? And when my center expands here in here like this, then I can clash and I can, my ankle can press down into the earth because I relax my weight into the leg. And by letting my ankle press down into the earth, that's gonna allow my knee to point forward, right? And now, instead of turning the hip here, because this is dangerous, because if we're parallel and if he falls, I'll fall too if he grabs me at all. So I wanna say, yes, so I wanna stay perpendicular as much as possible, okay, in this particular case. So by doing that, I don't push this hip. Instead, weight goes into the ankle, which drives the knee forward, and this back hip presses in. And that's that pull-up power that I'm talking about, the pull-up stance here, so that my body doesn't go this way, although we do that, but in a totally different scenario, but it stays here, and the back of my body power can come in like that, right? Okay, so that's basically hitting and kicking or stepping, okay? Wing Chun doesn't do a lot of kicking, and the kicks that they do are oftentimes real small and real low, okay? And they're not designed to be big powerhouse kicks so much as trips, throws, and a few knee and ankle more vital areas, hitting the MCL, the ACL, things like that. That's for another day. So the tonsao, the wrist, which stays on center line, must rotate clockwise like this, or if it's the left hand, counterclockwise. That's okay, we'll just stay on the right side for now. Rotate clockwise. But the problem is if I do this too much, if I twist this too much, it starts to bind up down here and lets my opponent's force, it's solid here, but then they can pass through this weak spot here. So on this spot, I must rotate outwardly a little bit. And together they look like this. See that? They're countering one another. So what inadequacies this one has, this one fills up. And what inadequacies this one has, this one fills up. And these, by that process, I'm making the whole tool inherently stronger, structurally speaking, through using tendons and the fascia layer and minute use of the muscles rather than gross muscle movement, okay? And again, the shoulder blade must slack forward. Slack forward, turn out at the elbow, turn in at the wrist, and I have this really It's a tight spiral, not tense, but a tight spiral. And I can put that spiral right into the opponent at this kind of turn as I turn my body. So while this joint turns clockwise, this joint is turning counterclockwise. You see? This way, this way. And you don't want it to be all the way out here, but it can't be all the way in here in this particular tanzao. It needs to be about here, right? Which means on this vertical line and this vertical line here. And then again, the shoulder, as we've talked about with the hitting hand, the shoulder must slack forward around the ribs. The scapula must roll around the ribs. So altogether, when the force comes in, I hit him, and you see I can just hit straight in here, okay? And please, hit hard. There, and I can divert him, okay? And I'm free to hit. So basically what it has to do is less to do with turning the opponent away, although that works quite well, especially if I switch my weight to my left side of my body on that line on the left side. That works really well because that gives him somewhere to go. But when we're talking about economy of motion, we're talking about, please hit, there. And yeah, okay, be aggressive, please. There it is, okay, boom. And I just send it back into him, okay? Is that hurting your ribs? Okay. Okay, so I can use these forces that are really small to create much firmer tool now, okay? And the Foksao now, same thing, but a little bit different now because the Foksao behaves differently. So this point must slide into the body, and this point must turn counterclockwise, right? To some varying degree. Depending on if it's high or low, these bones will be up high stacked horizontally and down low stacked vertically, and that's really important for the ability to stick and cause a leaky force to come through or not. So again, tansao this way, Foksao this way. Huh? This takes some articulation in the shoulder, so I'm moving the whole shoulder, and I'm moving the elbow independently of the wrist and the wrist independently of the elbow. And truth be told, I'm actually not moving any one specifically right at its own location. I'm using the bones right next to it to move, because if I just move at the wrist, it turns like this, right? But instead I use the center of the humerus and the radial bone, and I twist it this way. So in this one, now, left side of my body, the Foksao, I turn clockwise, okay? Counterclockwise. Shoulder slacks in front of the body. This is the Foksao, okay? And it's simply meant to seal, right? And gain the center. Just gain the center, okay? It's not like the movies where you bam, bam, right? It simply shoves everything down in him, and I hit straight in. It just shoves everything inside, okay? So, tansao, here. Foksao, here, right? This way, okay? So you see I'm not moving out here, and I'm definitely not moving like this. I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? So basically, when the Foksao happens, I want to be able to cover here, but then also cover here, right? And I also want to shove the back of my body into him. If I just shove with the front hand into him, then he can move at any time and and I'm slipping through. So instead I use this part here and I shove this through. And then when he moves around, I'm in control and I'll force around him. This creates an effect like water behind a dam. And as soon as the crack opens, the water just starts pouring through. And that's what Wing Chun's looking to do energetically. But most importantly, we're going to use 3 tools. And you can use them unanimously in one direction, and that works pretty good, much better than all this stuff out here. But when I start using 3 different spirals and project my energy into him at a remote location, it becomes much more tough. And it feels to his brain very alien. It's hard for the new person to even get an idea of what's happening, because it just feels like something all of a sudden very firm and soft at the same time. But the most important point is that when the force comes in, my tansao force isn't right here, because he's starting to get me now. He's starting to push me back, right? But instead, this force goes there. This force goes down into his body there, right? So I create this force that goes, and it pushes like this. Understand that this is theory, and we're talking about this nice and slowly. In combat, this is instantaneous. And the difference is when he punches is going to be like this, which works, that's fine, or this. here. And I just crush his stance and I can move it through. So it just happens instantaneously. You have to train this over and over and over again until you get to the point where this becomes natural. This is like a boxer practicing a cross jab, cross hook kind of combination or technique. The more you practice it, the more it becomes ingrained in your body, and you'll be able to perform it without the thought process. Okay? Thanks.